Well, good evening, all. Ira Epstein with your financial market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for the evening as we're here on Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024, and the time right now about 6:15 p.m. Central Time. You know, been watching the market and going, here we are. We're January 24th. Do you know that we've already blown through the consensus of gains for the S&P and some of the indices that we had for the year? Remember how people, I told you, write these foolish projections for the year, right in December, January, it gets their interns a lot of publicity, and this is what they're doing. And I said it's a waste of time. But they did it. You've already blown through some of those projections, which leads me to question. The last time I saw tech this much on fire, and I started thinking about this over the weekend, and it dawned on me. Do you remember the word tech bubble? Do you remember the 90s when the NASDAQ blew up? I am not predicting that will happen. I am saying this reminds me of the exuberance the market had. They used the words, remember, we've always heard the word meltdown. There's also the word melt up. And this is a melt up. I mean, NVIDIA's in a melt up. Netflix today took over, I think, the whole streaming business. You heard what I just said. I mean, there's them and there's everybody else. And they've got complete control of that. Tesla was the car leader. Now it's starting to falter. It's becoming more of a car manufacturer than a real leader in innovation. I have to say that. And that's a problem for them because the other people are coming up, but they're not American companies that are coming up. They're European, they're Chinese, they're Korean companies. I'm getting good reviews that I'm hearing on Vietnamese companies. So they are coming onto it, and it's days of the vehicle there. It has laurels, don't get me wrong, but it's being chased as we've seen everything. And why? Because it's a commodity at the end of the day. It's not AI. It's a commodity at the end of the day. There are chips and then there's chips. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong, there are cars and there's a Rolls Royce. There's cars and there's a Bugatti. I can go on and on. But mainstream, trying to sell a lot of cars, at the end of the day, they become a commodity. And that's what Tesla's facing. It was today. Even Mr. Musk said they're going to see less auto production for this year coming on, and part of it's pricing, all right, and profitability, and what do you do with it? He also has a car that's long-toothed. In other words, it needs to be revised. He's copying Ferdinand Porsche's idea that you can create the Volkswagen and stay with it forever. Unfortunately, Volkswagen's not here anymore, right? The old bug that we all fell in love with, and that becomes the problem. We'll see what he comes up with. This is a genius. This is our genius, and I'm sure he'll do a good job. All right, so that bothers me. Now, tomorrow, here's what you have. Let's start this off over here. Is where I want to be. Sit down tomorrow, take it easy, grab your cup of coffee. A lot of you subscribed, and I said you do that, and join me. Tomorrow morning, we start off the morning with the central bank monetary policy statement. Then we go right off the bat to jobless claims. We then move on to take a look at the U.S. fourth quarter advanced GDP. How did the economy grow? Then advanced durable goods are going to be released in the morning at 7:30. Then we get the Chicago Federal Reserve coming out with the National Activity Index. That's not a huge number. The others all are. And then we get another big one. New home sales for December come out at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we cap it off later in the morning. We're going to get the natural gas numbers that come out. Now, if you're taking a look at how the EIA and the other numbers came out today, we saw big reductions. We saw today an event that took place that shaped the face of a lot of these markets. What was that? It was China. China surprised the heck out of the markets today when out of nowhere, and I mean out of nowhere, they decided to do their third reduction in their reserve ratios for the banks. And they cut it by about 0.5 percentage point. That's a lot. So that's going to put 100 and some odd trillion into the market. Away everything goes. It goes nutty. And that's what you do when you do things like that. So that immediately kicks up a copper market. Iron ore goes up on that type of news. And you start wondering, what do you have? Well, I can tell you what you have. You have fear in the eyes of President Xi. And it deserved to be there. He saw the stock market fall 10%. People have no faith in the property market there. They're not buying. That's the other issue. So you got to do something. I mean, I give him credit because he realized what he wants to do and how to get where he wants needs modification. So somebody got his ear and they did it, and that's the good news. The better they do, the whole world does better. But I've got to just tell you something. You've got to be fearful that what you're in the tech sector, go back and read about the 1990s, late 90s, the bubble that was in tech. I'm nervous about it, okay? Just got to tell you, I am nervous, all right? I remember that, and I remember what a melt-up is, and I feel like we're in a melt-up. I mean, you're January 24th, you're through what many top analysts or their crews thought would be the gains for the year, and you're there already. And everybody's saying it's going to just keep going. Okay, I'm sure that's the case. Dollar under some pressure right now, flat in the metal markets. Okay, I get that. I see why copper rallied and gold, not gold, silver, industrial metals. Gold, this doesn't help. This is about industrial metals, but platinum didn't move with that, which is a little surprised me. It's down today. We'll see what happens. I don't think you read anything into bonds and notes right here. You got too much data coming at you right now. You've got a market that's going to start positioning itself for next week's FOMC, our bank meeting. We have the Bank of England yet coming out. And obviously, if you're throwing money into the Chinese economy to get it going, the energies get a bid from that. So when we look at the S&P, it's up and away. I mean, this is, just look at where this market's at. It knows no top. It just keeps running. And I am not a top picker. Believe me, I'd rather buy the high of a market and be wrong than be the guy trying to pick tops. That's how you go broke. In the E-mini S&P, we're starting to flatten out a little bit, I can tell you that. The trend is certainly up. You do realize if you go back here, the beginning of the year, you started at 4,700. Today, 4,933. How many people were talking that maybe 4,800 was a resistance point? You went through that. Are you going to 5,200? I mean, why not go to 6,000? All right. There becomes a point where the market starts feeding on itself, and that's what you always look at. When we take a look on corrections, the support could come back in at the 18-day average, but that's far from here. In order to get there, that's 175 points roughly. Whoa, that's a big break that you'd have to get in the market. What would cause it? What the market has done is it's latched on to the upper Bollinger Band, and it hit it 4 days in a row. I call that the gorilla glue trade, and simply because for most of us, other than Flex Seal, which will hate me saying this, for most of us used to go into Lowe's, Home Depot, and the strongest glue was your gorilla glue that we could buy. You know, there are commercial glues that are unbelievable. 3M makes some that you can imagine. They're really killers. But the idea there is it's holding it. Now, when you get a day where it doesn't hit it, it's the sign the market wants to begin maybe rolling over. Gravity's going to take hold. Doesn't mean it's got to go down very much. What'll tell you if the market's going down or not, in my opinion, is what is the slow stochastic doing. So slow stochastics like to travel between 20 and 80. And if they're in bed, it means that both numbers here get over the 80 level. Day one of doing that was Tuesday. Day two of doing it was Wednesday. We don't know where Thursday is. You're overbought as can be. To get embedded, you got to do this tomorrow too. So a strong day tomorrow most certainly embeds the market. And until that red line then closes under 79, the traders will start buying the break. But you have so much data tomorrow, I'd be a bit cautious. As I said in the NASDAQ, it's just like nothing's going to stop this market. It's all AI. It's going to change the world. It's going to change the decade. Do you know that I heard all this on the revolution taking place back in the melt up in tech You heard me, tech, when all this was going on before, and then we had the correction to it. In life, everything corrects. You don't have to agree with my statement there. They do. In the stock market, if we look at the market today and we go 5 years in the future or 10 years, I haven't seen a time in history when it's not higher down the road. You don't need a stockbroker. You don't need anybody to understand that. If you don't get it, there's something wrong with you. Just look at the market, and if you invest every year X amount of money, and today you have ETFs you can do it in that are broad scoped, you don't have to be a stock picker, and that was your portfolio. History says you're going to be doing just fine. And when you don't, the world probably ended, because in the world of finance, that has been what's working on. Can I guarantee it'll work? Of course not. But I can tell you that's what has worked, and that's it. I can't predict the future. When I look at the NASDAQ, you can see it's just running here against that band, continues to go higher. Oh, let's come here. Did it embed? Let me come back one chart. There we are. Let's take a look together if it embedded. All right? So I'm going to come right over here. Day one of embedding. This is the close today. Day two of embedding. Now, did it embed on Monday? Yep. So unlike the S&P, this one's embedded, and there's a way to come in on the breaks that you're supposed to do. I'd be looking to see tomorrow morning's reports at 7:30, and if they don't disrupt the market, I wouldn't be surprised if people start jumping back in the market if those reports aren't disruptive. So we will see what happens there. In the Dow, no, that's not even trying to embed. It's caught in sideways action. And the weak sister of this group that I know you all want to buy is the Russell, and it's just not the place to be. If you're going to be in a bull market, buy the bull things. People that try to buy the weak ones because they're going to catch, you got lucky at the end of the year that Russell came up. Otherwise, it was a dog all year long. When we look at notes and interest rates, well, they keep going up. Are you looking at all the auctions that are going on and how the Fed's taking all the money? Tonight, Robert Rubin, do you know that name? He was in the 90s under President Clinton, where we tried to get balanced budgets and so on. And he came out today, and a voice of wisdom. I respect him. He was very good. He was our Treasury Secretary for, I think, 4.5 years or so. And he says what I see. He said, if you're going to keep the spending, you got to increase taxes dramatically. You can't keep funding it this way. And that's going to be the reality. Can it happen right now? No, Robert. Why? You got election year. And nobody's going to go in and say, I'm going to run for office and I'm raising your taxes. I'm not saying you're wrong on your thoughts. I'm saying the timing is totally wrong. Do I think that Biden will raise taxes on people? No, but I don't know what Trump will do. He wants to lower corporate taxes. I know that, but I don't know what he's capable of. And if you saw the event last night, obviously, Nikki Haley has more than an uphill battle. I personally don't think she can make it now. I think that losing the way she did, and it was a big improvement over Iowa, so don't get me wrong, she made a 2/3 improvement. It's not enough. And it just seems that nothing's going to be able to stop the Trump-Biden presidency unless the courts come in. And if the courts really came down on President Trump, I don't know what that does for his presidency. It might get him more voters. I don't know how that would work. It's going to be wild. But you're still coming down. When you go down here, interest rates are going up, and that's what you're facing. You have an oversold market not yet embedding. 5-year note got oversold. Does that look to you like a bull trend? It doesn't to me. In the dollar index, you had an outside day up yesterday. If you haven't taken my outside day course, you should, especially you chart freaks, as I like to call. I'm one of those guys. And when you see this, if you have an outside day up and you take out the low of that, there's a high probability of what's going to happen. I'm not going to share it here. Take the course on our website, iraepstein.com. And all you need to do is go to the word education. That's where that belongs. All right. Are we going to lose the embedded reading? Well, you haven't opened yet tonight, but you're at a 79.47. Any reading on a close under 79, you lose it. There's a certain way you can gain it back, but it can't be the same day that happens. Then we come up to the euro, and all you did is you did a bear market rally. I talk about this so often, that often goes to the key moving averages. In this case, they happen to be together, the 200-day and the 18 zone, and the market got thrown back. But it means nothing. We're going to be waiting tomorrow to see what Ms. Lagarde says. You have all these other reports coming in. Next week, you got the FOMC. I predict Ms. Lagarde will say what Mr. Powell's going to say. I think they get in a room and they talk. I'm being funny with that, but they're of the same cloth. And that is they're data dependent. And what the data tells them, they'll do. Should she be asked tomorrow? I hope she is. Are they beginning to discuss cutting rates in Europe? Are they beginning to discuss the roll-off of their balance sheets, just the way that we do? They should. And the market will view that as soon as she says, yes, they are, that the bank is getting ready to cut. And you know how you run with all that. In the British pound, you are just locked in neutral territory. Remember what I told you, this is a great way to go broke? I've been there. I've done it. I ended up buying, it's going to break out. Doesn't break out, gets thrown back. It's going to break out to the downside, comes right back. And you're going, what the heck's happening to me? I can't do anything right. And what really happens is you get caught in those, and it throws away the positives you have about your good analysis on other things because you're caught up in markets like that. Run from that market for the time being. In Bitcoin, the market's still, to me, in a bearish phase. It's trying to embed both numbers. You can't count today, so let's go here. Both numbers under 20. Both under 20. Were they Monday? Probably not. See that? Tomorrow's the key day. If they embed, I think you'll end up back at these lows, if not lower. I have a target here of between 38,000 and 36,000 in the market if it embeds. So that's what I'll be looking to see what it does. Then we get to this market. Can you believe what has taken place? You have just taken $1 premium, almost 80 cents to be specific, out of the differential between Brent and WTI. Why? Well, the market's not down, it's up. And the market keeps looking at what the Houthis are doing, how they're being attacked by us, by the way, that we're now attacking in Iraq. Suddenly, our coalition is getting more aggressive on the offense. Israel and Hamas, at least the two are throwing ideas on how to end this war or get, if you will, a truce going. I don't care that each side says no. Through their intermediaries, they're talking about it. When you don't talk about it, you have the bigger problem. They'll find a way. There's too much pressure on both groups. Now, Israel's not going to get what it wants, where they're not going to get representation. Did you read today the United States, the Pentagon, what they said about how much of the Houthis have been, how much of the Houthis have been really killed? They say 20%. Israel's talking that they destroyed 2/3 of them. That's a huge difference. I don't know which one I go with, but we'll see. Remember, I don't believe that either of us have that good of departments any longer to figure anything out. We get caught with our pants down. Israel just got caught with their pants down, and suddenly they're both credible. Okay. But you are at a resistance point, I can tell you that. This is your first move. Each time we've gotten to the 200-day average, we have gotten thrown back. If the market found a reason to break out, the next resistance is 82.40, and it's up today off of a great piece of news, not good, that the China lowered its bank reserve ratios, which gives a bid to iron ore, copper market, oil market, everything they need for their economy. Will it last is the question. Same thing in WTI, as goes one, goes the other, but you're up to the 200-day average and the Bollinger Band. You're not embedded, I can tell you. My work says you come out at those numbers. You don't go in looking for higher parts. Not bearish. There's one thing to come out along. It's very different to be short. You're still in heating oil in a good position. Now, I'm wondering about heating oil. I just saw the 10-day forecast in Chicago. Next week, 50 degrees in Chicago. This is going to be into February. This is not what I'm used to. The cold we had for a week and a half was what used to be Chicago weather in the wintertime. We're going back to that 50-degree weather. It's going to change everything again. And in nat gas, none of that news is bullish, nat gas, but it got to the Bollinger Band. I know so many people don't understand how to play Bollinger Bands. Oversold, and I said that's where go to the tapes past 2 days. So that's where I think the pros are covering their shorts. And you're getting a bounce. So how do you play with all this? How do you get this on your charts? Could be something you even want to ask yourself. Let me show you. If you use this service, a popular one that a lot of people use, I don't know why, but they like it, is TradingView. And if you do use TradingView, we've created a suite of indicators for you that you can use in it. So it'll be my swing lines. It's going to include the moving averages. It's going to have my slow stochastic formula. It's going to contain everything I basically got, Bollinger Bands, and outside days. They're so important. Now, I like window envelopes, but you need to get my values for the window envelope, and I don't teach how I get them. All right, eventually I will, but I've never done it, and I keep them for myself right now. You know why? People need to come to me for my services. If I give everything away, they don't need me. I don't want to do that. I want to be in business. I don't want to be a guy out there that's just, I'll throw this out for a time or two. Everybody else makes money. I want to make money. All right. So how do you do this? IraEpstein.com. Go to Client Services at the top right of the form. Fill that out. How it works is then we turn it on. You'll get an email. We've turned it on. When you log in, boom, they're all there. You know how to get your indicators, and you'll see the whole suite. You can turn off parts of them. You can modify them. That's what they're built there for, and you'll be right online with what I do. I'm Ira. You have yourself a good evening. Remember all this data we get in the morning? I'll catch you in the morning. It's going to be a wild one. Get a good night's sleep.